Hello, this is Edgardo Gabino from the Philippines. I'm so happy to once again given the opportunity to share with you the word tonight, today, or whatever time that you were given a chance to watch this. Um, I would like to invite all of you, if you don't have a church to attend to, you can join us at A2K Church.org. And I promise you, you find a family here, a good brother and sister. Continue to watch us and enjoy our presentation. This is done for the glory of our Father God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. The topic that I want to share with you today, the title is What Greed Does to a Person. With our theme, what you value most in life reveals the kind of person you are. Let me share with you our text today, 2 Kings chapter 5, verses 20 to through 27. Let's open our Bible to that book. Gehazi, the attendant of Elisha, the man of God, thought, "My master has let this Aramean Naaman off lightly by not accepting from him what he brought. As the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something from him." So Gehazi pursued Naaman. When Naaman saw someone running after him, he got down from the chariot to meet him and asked, "Is everything all right?" Gehazi said, "It's all right. My master has sent me to say, I have just now discovered that two young men from the sons of the prophets have come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them 75 pounds of silver and 2 changes of clothes." But Naaman insisted, "Please accept 150 pounds, 150 pounds. He urged Gehazi and then packed 150 pounds of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of clothes. Naaman gave them to 2 of his young men who carried them ahead of Gehazi. When Gehazi came to the hill, he took the gifts from them and stored them in the house. Then he dismissed the men, and they left. Gehazi came and stood by his master. "Where did you go, Gehazi?" Elisha asked him. "Your servant didn't go anywhere," he replied. But Elisha questioned him. "Wasn't my spirit there when the man got down from his chariot to meet you? Is it a time to accept money and clothes, olive orchards and vineyards, sheep and oxen, and male and female slaves? Therefore, Naaman's skin disease will cling to you and your descendants forever." So Gehazi went out from his presence, diseased, white as snow. Elisha the prophet has an assistant named Gehazi. Gehazi was a witness to all his master's business. One day, an Aramean came to his master because he wanted his illness cured. Naaman, the commander of the army of the king of Aram, is a leper. Though very successful in bringing his king victories in all his battles, his Israelite servant girl told his wife that a prophet in Israel is able to heal Naaman of his leprosy. Naaman informed his king about it, and the king consented to it and wrote a letter to the king of Israel, which the Israelite king misunderstood. He thought to himself of his limitation and interpreted the action of the king of Aram as a challenge to start a war. Let's read the text. When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and asked, "Am I God, killing and giving life, that this man expects me to cure a man of his skin disease? Think it over, and you will see that he is only picking a fight with me." The king's dilemma suddenly lighted up because Elisha, the prophet, came to the rescue and had the perfect solution. When Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent a message to the king. "Why have you torn your clothes? Have him come to me, and he will know there is a prophet, God's representative in Israel." So Commander Naaman went to Elisha and received an uncommon antidote. That is to wash himself 7 times to the river Jordan. This instruction did not hold water to Naaman at first because he thought of a different way of getting his cure. Well, here's Naaman's reaction. He got angry. He left without thinking of thanking the prophet. He thought the prophet would come and pray over him. He was grumbling and thought that the rivers Abana and Parpar are better than all the waters of Israel. He preferred to wash in the other rivers. A little lesson we can extract from Naaman's reaction. Number 1, if we depend so much on our expectation, we may miss unique ways of learning a lesson. Number 2, if we become too emotional about our situation, we may miss the real solution to a problem. And number 3, it is never healthy to insist on our way over God's way. And number 4, pride can blur our eyes so that we can see God's purpose in our circumstances. In a nutshell, God works beyond human expectation. Words to ponder upon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, and your ways are not my ways. This is the Lord's declaration. For as heaven is higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 and 9. In Naaman's case, his servant has changed his disposition, which led him to alter his decision and finally followed the prophet's instruction. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 14, so Naaman went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times, according to the command of the man of God. Then his skin was restored and became like the skin of a small boy, and he was clean. Additional extracted lessons to enjoy. Number 1, Change is inevitable. If a person wants improvement, change is a prerequisite. According to Abigail Van Buren, change is always an undo-it-yourself project. Number 2, listening to correction is the key to discovering new alternatives. Listen to the statement of Naaman's servants. But his servants approached and said to him, "My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more should you do it when he tells you, wash and be clean?" 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 13. In a nutshell, it is better to be pruned and thus grow than to be cut up and burned. Number 3, additional extracted lessons to enjoy. Humility can help in improving situation and in adjusting ourselves. So remember this statement. The man who believes in nothing but himself lives in a very small world. Number 4, additional extracted lessons to enjoy. The fourth one, never give up when your expectation is not met. Remember this statement. A man is not finished when he is defeated. He is finished when he quits. And the prayer of Admiral Chester Nimitz. God, grant me the courage not to give up what I think is right, even though I think it is hopeless. Never give up when your expectation is not met. Number 5, liberate your mind from the common and traditional ways of doing things and open yourselves to possible alternative that is available around you. Remember this statement. Challenge just makes you stretch. They make you go beyond the norm. Turning an obstacle to your advantage is the first step toward victory. In today's presentation, I want us to see and learn the following. Number 1, what is greed? Number 2, what does greed lead to? And then I inserted the 8 tenets of Stoicism. And also I included the dialogue between Alexander the Great and the philosopher Diogenes. And then number 5, how is greed developed? Number 6, what greed does to a person? And number 7, the antidote, the concluding part, and the story shared by Leo Tolstoy. What greed does to a person? A study on Gehazi's behavior. Number 1, greed leads to using other people's names to your advantage. We can read that in verse 22. And number 2, greed leads us to fabricating a story. And number 3, it leads to taking advantage of other people's ignorance and vulnerability. And number 4, it leads to corruption of the mind, blurring the difference between right and wrong action and decision. Gehazi, the attendant of Elisha, the man of God, thought My master has let this Aramean Naaman off lightly, but by not accepting from him what he taught as the Lord, what he brought. As the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something from him. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 20. Greed may deceitfully lead a person to do what seems to be the will of God, but in reality, it is not. When Elisha's servant behavior said to himself, my master has let Naaman get away without paying a thing. He said he should have accepted what the Syrian offered him. By the living Lord, I will run after him and get something from him. A greedy person may feel no remorse even after being caught in wrongdoing. Gehazi's desire for more material things blinded his moral compass. Let's follow Naaman's statement. Naaman responded, if not, please let your servant be given as much soil as a pair of mules can carry. For your servant will no longer offer a burnt offering or a sacrifice to any other god but Yahweh. I am blessed to hear these words of Naaman, because Naaman changed his faith through the miracle that he experienced through the ministry of Elisha. Naaman was evangelized. He found new faith. When he offered gifts to Elisha didn't receive any of the gifts in the name of the Lord. Elisha's spiritual gift was used to lead Naaman to Yahweh. The result of his ministry is Elisha's reward itself. Let's study one little word here. Something to think about. An author suggested that it is good that a person would learn how to be autotelic, from a Greek word meaning self-in goal. An autotelic person needs few possessions, little entertainment, and no fame or power, because what he does is already rewarding. An autotelic task is one that a person does for its own sake because the experience itself is the goal. I remember one quotation which says, it is not what you get, but what you become matters most. A bit of wisdom from the tenets of Stoicism, which I think can help us too. It is about pursuing a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. One of their tenets is contemplating the transitory nature of the world around you. Number 2, living in the present without fear of the future. Number 3, banishing negative emotions. And number 4, living according to your nature. And number 5, pursuing virtue. And number 6, seeking courage and wisdom. And number 7, living simply and frugally. Number 8, mastering desire to the extent that it is impossible to do so. This tenet helps people to really learn how to live a simple life. And also let me share with you the dialogue between Alexander the Great and the Greek philosopher Diogenes. Alexander, Diogenes, you are a man of great repute, yet you spend your days untroubled, unperturbed, indulging in conversation and the pleasures of life. Diogenes, tell me, what is so much better about the life of Alexander the Great? Alexander, I am a conqueror of nations. So, conqueror of nations? What are you going to do next? I will conquer Greece. Yes, then what? I will conquer Asia Minor. All right, then what? I will conquer the rest of the world. And then I plan to relax and enjoy life. So why not relax and enjoy it now? He must have an impression the great conqueror once observed. Were not I Alexander, I would be Diogenes. Diogenes lived according to his nature, caring little for reputation, luxury, or material possession. He lived a contented lifestyle. I heard the story about Alexander the Great's 3 final wishes before he died. When Alexander the Great was dying, he called his top generals and told them his 3 final wishes. With tears flowing down their cheeks, the generals agreed to abide by their king's last wishes. First, Alexander said, I want only my best doctors to carry my coffin, said Alexander. Second, I want the path to my grave covered in gold, silver, and precious stones from my treasure. After a moment of rest, he continued, lastly, I want both my hands to stick out of my coffin for everyone to see. The generals were shocked, and asked why these unusual wishes. Alexander explained, I want people to see that even the best doctors are powerless to stop death. My wealth should show that earthly riches stay on earth. It is a sheer waste to chase wealth. And my empty hands symbolize that I came to this world with nothing and will leave with nothing. With these words, the king closed his eyes. Soon he let death conquer him and breathe his last. Well, we can see that even Alexander himself knew for a fact that he came nothing and he will come out nothing. How is greed developed? Number 1, it originates in the heart. Mark chapter 7, verses 20 to 23, it says, Then Jesus said, what comes out of a person that defines him, for from him, from within, out of people's hearts come evil thoughts, sexual immoralities, thefts, murders, adulterers, greed, evil actions, deceit, promiscuity, stinginess, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile a person. You see, greed, it starts from the heart. Number two, it is contemplated in the mind, just like what Gehazi did in 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 20. Number three, it is neglectfully executed, focused only on temporal gain. I will run after him and get something from him. And number four, it is a result of unexamined values. And number five, it implies a person's wrong object of love. In the scripture, in 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 to 17, we can read there the wrong objects of love. And also in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. In 1 John chapter 5, verses 15 through 16, it says, do not love the world and the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride in one's possessions is not from the Father, but is from the world. The sinful world and the things of this world, and also money, the love of money. Those are objects, the wrong objects of love. Where does greed lead us to? Number one, Proverbs 28, verse 22, a greedy one is in a hurry for wealth. He doesn't know that poverty will come to him. And then, injustice and oppression. Micah chapter 2, verse 2. They covet fields and seize them. They also take houses. They deprive a man of his home, a person of his inheritance. Number three, foolish and hurtful lust. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 9. But those who want to be rich fall into temptation, a trap, and many foolish and harmful desires, which plunge people into ruin and destruction. Number four, misery. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, and by craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Number five, murder. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 17 through 19. It is useless to spread a net where any bird can see it, but they set an ambush to kill themselves. They attack their own lives. Such are the paths of all who make profit dishonestly. It takes the lives of those who receive it. And number six, domestic affliction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and by craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. Seventh, adultery. Story about David. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with a sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Number 8, lying. So Gehazi hurried after Naaman, When Naaman saw him running toward him, he got down from the chariot to meet him. Is everything all right? He asked. Everything is all right, Gehazi answered. My master sent me to say two young men from the company of the prophets have just come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. Yes. Number 9 or number 8. Departure from the faith. 1 Timothy 6:10. The love of money causes all kinds of trouble. Some people want money so much they have given up their faith and caused themselves a lot of pain. In a nutshell, no greedy person would ever live a happy life, but will be filled with misery. Here's the antidote. The first one is guard your heart. Number 2, master your mind. Number 3, when you do things, always begin with the end in mind. And number 4, check your values. Number 5, love God. Number 6, be contented. And number 7, focus on the eternal gain. Thoughts worth thinking about. Great men are they who see that the spiritual is stronger than any material force. That thoughts rule the world, according to Ralph Waldo Emerson. Let me share with you a story written by Count Leo Tolstoy. The title of the thing that he wrote is How Much Land Does a Man Need? I want to conclude this topic that we have through this story written by Tolstoy, and want you to think about what lesson could you get out of this story, and bear with me, please. There once was a peasant named Pahom who worked hard and honest for his family, but who had no land of his own. So he always remained as poor as the next man. Busy as we are from childhood, tilling Mother Earth, he often thought, we peasants will always die as we are living, with nothing of our own. If only we had our land, it would be different. Now, close to Pahom's village, there lived a lady, a small landowner, who had an estate of about 300 acres. One winter, the news got out that the lady was going to sell her land. Pahom heard that a neighbor of his was buying 50 acres and that the lady had consented to accept one half in cash and wait a year for the other half. Look at that, Pahom thought. Land is being sold. I shall get none of it. So he spoke to his wife. People are buying it, and we must also buy 20 acres or so. Life is becoming impossible without land of our own. So they put their heads together and considered how they could manage to buy it. They have 100 rubles laid by. They sold a colt, and one of their bees hired one of their sons as a laborer, and took his wages in advance. They borrowed dress from a brother-in-law, and so scrapped together half the purchase money. Having done this, Pahom chose a farm of 40 acres, some of it wooded, and went to the lady and brought it. So now Pahom had land of his own. He borrowed seeds and sowed them, and the harvest was a good one. Within a year, he had managed to pay off his debts to the lady and his brother-in-law. So he became a landowner, plowing and sowing his land, making hay on his land, cutting his trees, and feeding his cattle on his pasture. When he went to plow his fields or to look at his growing corn or his meadows, his heart would fill with joy. The grass that grew and the flowers that bloomed there seemed to him unlike any that grew elsewhere. Formerly, when he had passed by that land, it had appeared the same as any other land. But now, it seems quite different. Then one day, Pahom was sitting at home when a peasant passing through the village happened to stop in. Pahom asked him where he came from, and the stranger answered that he came from beyond the Volga, where he had been working. One word led to another, and the man went on to say that much land was for sale there and that many people were moving there to buy it. The land was good, he said, that the rye sown on it grew as high as a horse and so thick that 5 cuts of a sickle made a sheep. One peasant, he said, had brought nothing with him but his bare hands, and now he had 6 horses and 2 cows of his own. Pahom's heart was filled with desire. Why should I suffer in a narrow hall, he thought, if one can live so well elsewhere? I will sell my land and my homestead here, and with the money I will start fresh over there and get everything new. So Pahom sold his land and homestead and cattle, all at a profit, and moved his family to the new settlement. Everything the peasant had told him was true, and Pahom was 10 times better off than he had been. He bought plenty of arable land and pasture and could keep as many head of cattle as he liked. At first, in the bustle of building and settling down, Pahom was pleased with it all. But when he got used to it, he began to think that even here he was not satisfied. He wanted to show more wheat, but did not have enough land of his own for the purpose. So he rented extra land for 3 years. The seasons turned out well and the crops were good, so that he began to lay money by. He might gone on living comfortably, but grew tired of having to rent other people's land every year and having to scramble to pay for it. If it were all my land, Pahom thought, I should be the independent and there would not be all this unpleasantness. Then one day, a passing land dealer said he was just returning from the land of Baskirs, far away, where he had bought 13,000 acres of land, all for only 1,000 rubles. All one need to do is to make friends with the chiefs, he said. I gave away about 100 rubles worth of dressing gowns and carpets, besides a case of tea, and I gave him wine to those who would drink it, and I got the land for less than 2 pence an acre. There now, thought Pahom. Out there I can get more than 10 times as much land as I have now. I must try it. So Pahom left his family to look after the homestead and started on the journey, taking a servant with him. They stopped at a town on their way and bought a case of tea, the same wine, and other presents, as the tradesman had advised him. On and on they went until they had gone more than 300 miles, and on the 7th day, they came to a place where the Baskirs had pitched their tents. As soon as they saw Pahom, They came out of their tents and gathered around their visitor. They gave him tea and kumis and had the sheep killed and gave him mutton to eat. Pahom took presents out of his cart and distributed them and told them he had come about some land. The buskers seemed very glad and told him he must talk to their chief about it. So they sent for him and explained to him why Pahom had come. The chief listened for a while, then made a sign with his head for them to be silent, and addressing himself to Pahom said, "Well, let it be so. Choose whatever piece of land you like. We have plenty of it." "And what will be the price?" asked Pahom. "Our price is always the same, 100 rubles a day." Pahom did not understand. A day? What measure is that? How many acres would that be? "We do not know how to reckon it out," said the chief. "We sell it by the day. As much as you can go around on your feet in a day is yours. And the price is 1,000 rubles a day." Pahom was surprised. "But in a day you can get around a large tract of land?" he said. The chief laughed. "It will be yours," said he, "but there is one condition. If you don't return on the same day to the spot whence you started, your money is lost." "But how am I to mark the way that I have gone?" "Why, we shall go to any spot and make your round, taking a spade with you. Wherever you think necessary, make a mark. At every turning, dig a hole and fill up the tuff. Then afterward, we'll go around with a plow from hole to hole. You may make a large circuit as you please. But before the sun sets, you must return to the place you started from. All the land you cover will be yours." Pahom was delighted. It was decided to start early the next morning. They took a while, and after drinking some kumis and eating some mutton, they had tea again, and then night came on. They gave Pahom a feather bed to sleep on, and buskers dispersed for the night, promising to assemble next morning at daybreak and ride out before sunrise to the appointed spot. Pahom lay on the feather bed but could not sleep. He kept thinking about the land. "What a large tract I will mark off," thought he. "I can easily do 35 miles in a day. The days are long now, and within a circuit of 35 miles, what a lot of land there will be. I will sell the poorer land or let it to peasants, but I'll pick up the best and farm it. I'll buy 2 ox teams and hire 2 more laborers. About 150 acres shall be plow land, and I will pasture cattle on the rest." Looking around, he saw through the open door that dawn was breaking. "It's time to wake them up," thought he. "We ought to be starting." He got up, roused his man, who was sleeping in his cart, bade him harshness, and went to call the buskers. "It's time to go to the steep to measure the land," he said. The buskers rose and assembled, and the chief came too. Then they began drinking kumis again and offered Pahom some tea, but he would not wait. "If we are to go, let us go. It's high time," said he. The buskers got ready and they all started, some mounted on horses and some in carts. Pahom drove in his small cart with his servant and took a spade with him. When they reached the steep, the morning red was beginning to kindle. They ascended to hillock and, dismounting from their carts and their horses, gathered in one spot. The chief came up to Pahom and stretched out his arm toward the plain. "See," said he, "all this, as far as your eyes can reach, is ours. You may have any part of it you like." Pahom's eyes glistened. It was all virgin soil, as flat as the palm of your hand, as black as the seed of a poppy, and in the hollows, different kinds of grasses grew breast high. The chief took off his fur cap, placed it on the ground, and said, "This land will be the mark. Start from here and return here again. All the land you go around shall be yours." Pahom took out his money and put it in the cup. Then he took out his outer coat, remaining in his sleeveless undercoat. He fastened his girdle and tied it right below his stomach, but a little bag of bread into the breast of his coat, and tying a flask of water to the girdle. He drew up the tops of his boots, took the spade from his man, and stood ready to start. He considered some moments which way he had better go. It was tempting everywhere. "No matter," he concluded, "I will go toward the rising sun." He turned his face to the east, he stretched himself, and waited for the sun to appear above the rim. "I must lose no time," he thought. "It is easier walking while it is still cold." The sun rays had hardly passed above the horizon before Pahom, carrying the spade over his shoulder, went down into the steep. Pahom started walking, neither slowly nor quickly. After having gone 1,000 yards, he stopped, dug a hole, and placed pieces of tarp on one another to make it more visible. Then he went on, and now that he had walked up his steepness, he quickened his pace. After a while, he dug another hole. Pahom looked back. The hillock could be distinctly seen in the sunlight, with the people on it and the glittering tires of the cartwheels. At a rapid guess, Pahom concluded that he had walked 3 miles. It was growing warmer. He took up his undercoat, flung it across his shoulder, and went on again. It had grown quite warm now. He looked at the sun. It was time to think of breakfast. The first shift is done, but there are 4 in a day, and it is too soon yet to turn. But I will just take off my boots, said he to himself. He sat down, took off his boots, stuck them into his girdle, and went on. It was easy walking now. I will go on for another 3 miles, thought he, and then turn to the left. This spot is so fine that it will be a pity to lose it. The farther one goes, the better land seems. He went straight on for a while, and then looked around. The hillock was scarcely visible, and the people on it looked like blank ants, and he could just see something glistening there in the sun. "Ha," thought Pahom, "I have gone far enough in this direction. It is time to turn. Besides, I am in a regular sweat and very thirsty." He stopped, dug a large hole, and heaped up pieces of turf. Next, he united his flax, had a drink, and then turned sharply to the left. He went on and on. The grass was high, and it was very hot. Pahom began to grow tired. He looked at the sun and saw that it was noon. Well, he thought, I must have a rest. He sat down and ate some bread and drank some water, but he did not lie down, thinking that if he did, might fall asleep. After sitting a while, he went on again. At first, he walked easily. The food had strengthened him, but it had become hot, and he felt sleepy. Still went on thinking, an hour to suffer, a lifetime to live. He went a long way in this direction also, and was about to turn to the left again, when he perceived a damp hollow. It would be a pity to leave that out, he thought. Flax would do well there. So he went on past the hollow and dug a hole on the other side of it before he turned the corner. Pahom looked toward the hillock. The heat made the air hazy. It seems to be quivering, and through the haze, the people on the hillock could scarcely be seen. Ha, thought Pahom. I have made the sides too long. I must make this one shorter. And he went along the third side, stepping faster. He looked at the sun. It was nearly half to the horizon, and he had not yet done 2 miles of the third side of the square. He was still 10 miles from the goal. No, he thought, though it will make my land lopsided, I must hurry back in a straight line now. I might go too far, and as it is, I have a great deal of land. So Pahom hurriedly dug a hole and turned straight toward the hillock. Pahom went straight toward the hillock, but now walked with difficulty. He was done up with the heat. His bare feet were cut and bruised, and his legs began to fail. He longed to rest, but it was impossible if he meant to get back before sunset. The sun waited for no man, and it was sinking lower and lower. Oh dear, he thought, if only I had not blundered trying too much. What if I am too late? He looked toward the hillock at the sun. It was still far from his goal, and the sun was already near the rim. Pahom walked on and on. It was very hard walking, but he went quicker and quicker. He pressed on, but was still far from the place. He began running, threw away his coat, his boots, his flax, and his cup, and kept on a spade which he used as a sport. What shall I do? He thought again. I have grudged too much and ruined the whole affair. I can get there before the sunset. After this, fear made him still more breathless. Pahom went on running. His soaking shirt and trousers stuck to him, and his mouth was parched. His breast was working like a blacksmith's bellows. His heart was beating like a hammer. His legs were giving way as if they did not belong to him. Pahom was seized with terror lest he should die of the strain. Though afraid of death, he could not stop. After having run that way, he will call me a fool if I stop now, thought he. And he ran on and drew near. He heard the buskers yelling and shouting to him, and their cries inflamed his heart still more. He gathered his last strength and ran on. The sun was close to the rim, and his cloaks in mist and looked large and red as blood. Now, yes, it was about to set. The sun was quite low, but he was also quite near his aim. Pahom could already see the people on the hillock waving their arms to hurry him up. He could see the foxfire cup on the ground, the money on it, and the chief sitting on the ground holding his sides. There's plenty of land, thought he, but will God let me live on it? I have lost my life. I have lost my life. I shall never reach that spot. Pahom looked at the sun, which had reached the earth. One side of it had already disappeared. With all his remaining strength, he rushed on, bending his body forward so that his legs could hardly follow fast enough to keep him from falling. Just as he reached the hillock, it suddenly grew dark. He looked up. The sun had already set. He cried, "All my labor has been in vain," thought he, and was about to stop, but he heard the buskers still shouting and remembered that though to him from below the sun seemed to have set, they on the hillock could still see it. It was still high there. He took a long breath and ran up the hillock. It was still there. He reached the top and saw the cup. Before it sat the chief, lapping and holding his sides. Pahom uttered a cry. His legs gave way beneath him, and he fell forward and reached the cup with his hands. Ha! That's a fine fellow, exclaimed the chief. He has gained much land. Pahom's servant came running up and tried to raise him, but he saw the blood flowing from his mouth. Pahom was dead. The busker clicked their tongues to show their pity. His servant picked up the spade and dug a grave long enough for Pahom to lie in and buried him in it. 6 feet from his head to his heels was all he needed. May you learn the story well, my dear brothers and sisters. Thank you and God bless. Thank you for your patience, my dear brothers and sisters. Hope, I hope you enjoyed this long story. Well, there's a lot there. I think I need to stop the recording now. And I would like to thank all of you who are watching this, hoping that you have enough patience to finish the presentation. God bless you all.